That alone, verse number 12. See the skin, bone, dirt, and inner urges, which end tragically, to which the I identity is conjoined. This which perishes is the other. O grant the cherished boon that the great I identity increases to perfection. Commentary. We have been describing in the previous verses two juxtaposed aspects. One is the witnessing self. The other is the consciousness that is caught in these bodily functions and various kinds of modifications of the mind. When a person wants to discover his reality, it is likely he will be caught either in his physical identification or in his spiritual identification. Most of us, when the idea of I comes to mind, think of the body and its mental functions. This is a fictitious I. It does not exist. It only developed as a convenience to hold together the many biologic functions and mental ideations taking place. The growing child has no idea of an I when it first comes to this world. People refer to it as you. Afterwards, the child, imitating older people, says I. Eventually, this I identity takes hold of the child. The body is part of all that is within the I identity. Outwardly, what we see is skin. Inside, the anatomical structure is made of bones and is filled with all kinds of dirt, malam. In America, you might prefer to call it blood and guts. But however much you try to preserve all this, it will come to a tragic end. The inner organ in us belongs to this organism. Within it are so many previous conditionings called vasanas or incipient memories. When these come up, they provide the interrogating aspect of consciousness, and awareness bubbles up in the form of questions. Then memories are associated with these questions, and we make certain judgments. This leads to our affective volition, the actualization of many desires. The ego identity, ahanta, carries all this. The body is covered with skin, and skin is sensitive. It is a sense organ which covers our whole body. From all around us, our sensations are always producing the awareness of our bodily existence. The eyes, ears, nose, and tongue are also only modified forms of skin. The skin in the eye is made extra sensitive to light. The skin in the ear is made into a drum which vibrates. The skin in the nose has its olfactory nodules. The skin in the tongue has its taste buds. After all is said and done, it is only skin. Narayana Guru here uses skin to represent the sensory system. It is a very ingenious way of combining the physical entity with the mental. The skin belongs to the mind because it is a sensory organ, and it is also the most peripheral cover, like an envelope, for holding together the muscles, tissues, nervous system, and bones. The skeletal system gives the body its specific form. When we are alive, we can run and jump and do all kinds of acrobatic feats. It looks like the system is very well structured. The bones are all well arranged and held together in their sockets. But if our very simple breath leaves the body, all these bones will come apart. If we were to go to the burial ground and dig up an old body, there wouldn't be any flesh, any skin on it. none of the organs would be seen, and even within the skull, the brain and everything would be gone. It would have all been reduced to clean bones. If we were to try to pick them up, they would all come apart. Anatomists have to tie the bones together with wires to make them stand. In life, what is holding them together? Only this breath. The physiological organism of ours is very perishable. Between the skin we spoke of and the consciousness of I, which in the present case means the ego, many desires arise. According to Freud, the seedbed of our desires is in the rapture of the skin, in the various visceral areas of the body. These are easily tickled. The child gets an erotic pleasure when the inside of its mouth, the skin of the inner part of its lips is rubbed. When it sucks the mother's nipple, there is an erotic stimulation in the nipple which sends electrical charges through her to produce lactation. She secretes milk into the mouth of the child. When the child is having this rapture of the lips, it is having a pure erotic pleasure, and sweet nourishing milk also comes as a reward. It is encouraged to do more of it. When the same milk goes to the other end, the child urinates and purges its bowels. It experiences an anal pleasure with each purging. So the child's first pleasures are sucking the mother's milk, urinating and excreting. Then the mother adds to it by touching the cheeks and under the chin. She tickles its sides, hands and legs. All over the body there are ticklish areas. The pleasures people crave mostly come from tickling. Seeing something beautiful is an erotic pleasure where the sensitivity of the eye is tickled. The ear has harmonic pleasures from the tickling vibrations of voices and music. The nose is tickled by various odors. On the whole, we live for the pleasure of the skin. The urges for these pleasures are deep down, but they are lived at the level of the skin. So in a sense, the pleasures of life are only skin deep. We are very fond of touching, but if we get burned or the fingers are scalded, we are afraid to touch anything. If a thorn pricks us in the toe or the sole of the foot, it makes us nervous about touching the ground. Where pleasure is, there pain is also, living very close by. The pursuits of pleasure often brings us pain. As if physical pain were not enough, religious people have added moral pain through the invention of guilt. In modern man, many of the pleasures of the skin are intimately connected with a moral conscience of great sin, great guilt. In America and some other places, if two men or two women are found sleeping together, a lot of fuss is made about it. Instead of being praised as friendship, it is condemned as homosexuality. The whole issue of skin touching skin leads to so much fuss and so much guilt. God in heaven will be mighty upset if skin touches skin, whine the pious. Is it really such a big deal? It's just a small affair on a minor planet, someone's skin touching somebody else's. But we have penal codes and moral codes with so many items labeled A, B, C, on and on endlessly. And lawyers argue in courts, did touch, didn't touch, and show proofs and evidence. The whole world is a mess. Mostly it is a mess because of the destruction towards which it naturally trends. The rest is due to our own foolishness. The whole affair of the ego is essentially a stupid business. What little of value remains. Guru here says, Idu polium, this will perish. From the skin to all the dynamisms of all the inner urges which are seeking pleasures, the whole system will come to an end. Meditating on it won't help us much. That wouldn't give us the idea of Sarupa Siddhi, of attaining one's own nature. You won't find the eternal by meditating on the body or the mind or any of the senses or sensory pleasures that disappear after a while. One should turn to the pure awareness that was present even when one was in the mother's womb as a fertilized ovum, a developing fetus, and as a child who was pushing itself out through a strange kind of interaction between itself and the mother, finally to come to its own liberation. All these things are done by another awareness residing within. It is the same in the mother, the child, the father, and all the living beings all over the universe. It is a common life principle, a homogeneous principle of life, which can remain dormant, come into a form of manifestation, and assert itself in all shades of awareness, yet it is never itself affected. It is immortal. It never dies. It is called the Atman. To meditate on it, the ancient wise ones made a formula. I am Atma Brahma. It means this Atma is Brahman. This self-luminous awareness that resides in all beings is the Absolute. That which is other than that which lies between the skin and all the other urges. It never perishes. When we contemplate this, when we meditate on it continuously, there comes the perfection of that awareness. The highest form of devotion is called bhakti. In his Vivekachudamani, Shankara defines bhakti as the continuous contemplation of one's true form. And what is our real form? That is what realization is, the apprehension of our own true beingness. That increases and becomes absolute. Anya Pulinyo Purnamagam. In this process, we must continue to maintain our primary identity, I am the body. Otherwise, we are putting together two incompatible things, the ego identity born of the body and mind, with the suggestion given by the Rishi that you are the Absolute. The meaning then becomes that this embodied ego is the Absolute. This is the strange position which many religious and even spiritual people unfortunately assume. Then they become megalomaniac, saying, I am Christ, I am God, I am an incarnation, I am Bhagavan, or I am an avatara. And what is that I am there? It is the perishable stuff which we were denouncing just a little while ago. Shankara calls this filling the dog's skin with sacred milk. In India and Arabia, people make a kind of bucket for carrying water by sewing up the skin of animals, cows, camels, or dogs. Arabs use them for drinking purposes, while Indians usually use them only for carrying water at construction sites. They are considered to be very dirty. So if you bring milk in one, nobody will drink it. The milk is no longer sacred when you put it in a dog's skin. Like that, the ego is a dirty, foul thing. It should not be identified with the Absolute. But by mistaken notions, people often do. This not only obstructs their path to realization, but causes them to swell up with pride. become arrogant and aggressive, and create a lot of nuisances for the world. They become very fanatical, create various kinds of personality cults, and make everyone kowtow before them. It is hard to be sure of the difference between surrender to the Absolute in the guise of a guru and servitude to some aggressive fellow. Unknowingly, we think we have chosen the right one when we have really chosen the other. I was reading a friend's journal yesterday. She was struggling with this very problem regarding her teacher. Quite rightly, she asked herself, "Am I his slave in servitude, or is he an image of the divine to whom I am surrendering myself?" This is where big trouble comes in. A person may think that this man with a beard is the Guru or God. This pot-bellied bearded man or this bald-headed scarecrow who are called gurus are not gurus. They are perishable creatures, full of dirt like anyone else. They smell as much as anyone. It is only the light shining through the words of wisdom that is imperishable. Fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes the sound comes through an instrument which otherwise is reeking with all its dirt. This is a great warning against false identification, both for spiritual adepts and their associates. So Narayana Guru says that if we just look at this body, we can understand how impermanent it is. On the other hand, it is not difficult to see that the Absolute never perishes. But he foresees a great danger in this perishable ego hitching itself to the imperishable Absolute and then falsely believing that it is the Absolute. Oh God, here I really need your help. Please come and give me the great blessing that I won't become a megalomaniac, that I won't have a false bloated ego. I'm unable to help myself here. You, God, should come and help me. He says, "Oh God, give me this great boon that I won't become a spiritually egoistic person." The spiritual ego is very hard to overcome. If 10 people bow before you and show reverence, you may be able to retain your sanity, but it will soon leave you when more and more people show an attitude of reverence. It is extremely difficult to maintain a proper attitude. We have a story in India that some people decided to make fun of a simpleton. He wanted to sell a small goat, so he was carrying it to the market. These people stood at different places along the way, knowing that he would soon be passing. The first man said, "What kind of joke is this? Where are you going with the dog?" The simpleton replied, "Dog? This is a goat." "Goat, eh? Can't you see it's a dog?" "Dog?" He looked it over and said, "It's not a dog, it's my goat." He took the first man for a fool, but when the second man asked him about his dog, he began to suspect something was wrong. He wasn't sure if the problem was with himself or with other people. When he came to the third man who called it a dog, he was all the more troubled. How can you disagree with 3 people? He thought, this is probably neither a dog or a goat, it must be a devil. This devil may be showing itself to me as a goat and showing itself to others as a dog. When he came to the fourth man who said, "Hey man, is that dog for sale?" he thought, this is really a dog. I am absolutely mad, thinking a dog is a goat. This is a real devil, and I am carrying it around. He walked a little further, and when nobody was around, he threw it down and ran away. That was just where the fifth man was hiding. He picked up the goat and went to join his friends. Like that, when the first man comes and says, "Oh great Guru," you say, "No man, don't make fun of me. Then two people come and say, Great Guru, am I? No, I'm not. Then 10 people come and bow and call you a great Guru. You look at yourself and ask, am I a great Guru or not? Then 100 people come, then 10,000 in 7 jumbo jets. Now you cannot deny that you are really a great Guru. It's all confirmed. So you have to say, God, come and save me. This is where you are needed. I won't be able to get over this temptation by myself. The New Testament begins with the same idea. The very first event is Jesus being taken to the top of the tower and told to jump. See the whole world, it will be yours, Jesus said. Satan, get thee behind. This kind of firm attitude is what is needed. Satan, get thee behind. You should not tempt your Lord. I am here to bow before my Lord and not before any worldly temptation. If we substitute the term ego for the devil or Satan, we will never go far wrong in our interpretation of the old scriptures. This verse asks us to discriminate between the perishing self and the imperishable self. Identity with the imperishable self comes by divine grace. It is not by mere intellectual pursuits or internal argumentation that we come to it. It is a divine gift and it has to come by grace. So here, out of the philosophical scrutiny and analysis, the Guru is bringing us closer to an attitude of piety, of adoration even, of one who is helpless without divine grace. This verse instructs us to resort to prayer, to prayerfully seek divine help in knowing the true nature of things and not to be misled by the world of phantoms. And the free translation of verse 12 is, the ego clings to a perishing body composed of skin, bones, and all kinds of filth. This is the non-self which is sure to decompose. One should aspire to transcend the limitations of the body and grow into the perfection of plenitude.